Welcome back to Top 5. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, a horrific example of medical malpractice that unfolded from 1932 to 1972. Conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service, the study aimed to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in African American men in Alabama. Participants, who were misled into believing they were receiving free healthcare, were denied treatment even after penicillin became widely available in the 1940s. The intent was to gather data on the disease, but the ethical violations were staggering. The men suffered severe consequences, including painful medical conditions and premature death, all while the government turned a blind eye. When the truth surfaced in the 1970s, it sparked outrage and led to significant reforms in medical ethics. The study remains a dark chapter in American history, illustrating the potential for exploitation under the guise of research. 9. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. At number 9, we find a bizarre yet disturbing cover-up known as the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. In 2012, thieves made off with $18 million worth of maple syrup from a storage facility in Quebec. While it may sound like a heist straight out of a movie, the underlying issues exposed by this incident are deeply troubling. The theft was orchestrated by a group of syrup producers who exploited the government-regulated reserve known as the Global Strategic Maple Syrup Reserve. This reserve was established to stabilize prices in the maple syrup industry, but its oversight was riddled with corruption. Local authorities and even government officials were complicit, turning a blind eye to the illicit activities occurring within the industry. The scandal revealed systemic corruption and a lack of accountability, casting a shadow over what is often perceived as a charming and wholesome industry. 8. The Gulf of Tonkin Incident. Taking the 8th spot is the Gulf of Tonkin Incident, a pivotal event that escalated U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. In August 1964, the U.S. Navy reported that its ships had been attacked by North Vietnamese forces, leading to the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which granted President Lyndon B. Johnson broad powers to engage militarily in Vietnam. However, later investigations revealed that the second alleged attack on August 4, 1964, may not have occurred at all. Declassified documents and testimonies indicated that the U.S. government exaggerated the threat to justify military intervention. This manipulation of information resulted in a devastating war that claimed millions of lives. The Gulf of Tonkin incident exemplifies how government narratives can shape public perception and policy, often at a great human cost. 7. Operation Chaos. In 7th place is Operation Chaos, a covert CIA program initiated in the late 1960s that aimed to surveil and infiltrate domestic anti-war and civil rights groups. As the Vietnam War sparked widespread protests, the CIA sought to monitor the activities of American citizens advocating for social justice. COINTELPRO, another notorious FBI program, is often mentioned in discussions of government overreach, but Operation Chaos is frequently overlooked. The CIA's tactics included infiltration, surveillance, and disinformation campaigns aimed at discrediting activists. The program raised serious ethical questions about the government's role in monitoring dissent and the violation of citizens' rights. 6. Operation Northwoods. Claiming the 6th spot is Operation Northwoods, a shocking plan proposed by the U.S. Department of Defense in 1962 that aimed to justify military intervention in Cuba by orchestrating false flag terrorist attacks against American civilians and military targets. The operation included proposals to hijack planes, stage bombings, and even sink boats filled with Cuban refugees, all designed to create a pretext for war. While the plan was ultimately rejected by President John F. Kennedy, its very existence raises troubling questions about the extent to which the government would go to achieve its objectives. The chilling notion that officials considered inflicting harm on their own citizens for political gain is a stark reminder of the potential for abuse of power. 5. The Iran-Contra Affair. In fifth place is the Iran-Contra Affair, a scandal that unfolded during the Reagan administration in the 1980s. It involved the illegal sale of arms to Iran, which was under an arms embargo, and the diversion of the proceeds to fund the Contras, a rebel group fighting in Nicaragua. The operations were conducted without the knowledge or approval of Congress, violating the Boland Amendment, which prohibited U.S. assistance to the Contras. The affair was exposed in 1986, revealing a web of deceit that involved high-ranking officials. The scandal raised significant ethical concerns about government accountability and the lengths to which officials would go to pursue their agenda, often at the expense of transparency. 4. COVID-19 origins and cover-up. At number 4 is the ongoing controversy surrounding the origins of COVID-19. As the pandemic unfolded, questions arose about whether the virus originated from a natural source or leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China. Initial reports and investigations suggested a zoonotic origin, leading to widespread assumptions about how the virus spread. However, as evidence began to surface regarding the Wuhan Institute of Virology and its research on coronaviruses, calls for a more thorough investigation intensified. The Chinese government faced accusations of suppressing information and restricting access to relevant data. The World Health Organization's investigations were met with criticism for lack of transparency, and many believe that the true origins of COVID-19 may never be fully understood due to political pressures and cover-ups. 3. COINTELPRO. Claiming the bronze medal is the FBI's COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, which sought to surveil and disrupt civil rights organizations, feminist groups, and other movements deemed subversive. Initiated in the late 1950s, COINTELPRO employed a range of tactics, including infiltration, disinformation, and intimidation, to undermine these groups. The program's primary objective was to prevent the rise of black messiahs and quash dissent. The FBI targeted individuals like Martin Luther King Jr. and the Black Panther Party, employing unethical methods to discredit and disrupt their movements. While many are aware of the civil rights struggles of the 1960s, the extent of government surveillance and suppression remains largely unspoken. 2. The disappearance of Flight 19. In the runner-up position is the mysterious disappearance of Flight 19, a group of 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers that vanished over the Bermuda Triangle during a training flight on December 5, 1945. The incident is often shrouded in conspiracy theories, but the government cover-up surrounding it is seldom discussed. After the planes disappeared, the U.S. Navy launched a massive search and rescue operation, but no trace of Flight 19 was ever found. The official narrative suggested pilot error and disorientation, but many believe the government withheld evidence pointing to a more alarming cause. Reports of strange phenomena in the Bermuda Triangle prompted speculation about secret military experiments or even extraterrestrial encounters. The lack of transparency about the investigation has led many to wonder what truly happened that fateful day. 1. Operation Paperclip. Claiming the top spot is Operation Paperclip, a covert program that brought former Nazi scientists to the United States after World War II. The U.S. government sought to secure scientific knowledge and expertise for the Cold War effort, but many of the recruited individuals were implicated in war crimes, human experimentation, and the development of weapons of mass destruction. The program operated in secrecy, with the government prioritizing scientific advancement over accountability. Notable figures, such as Wernher von Braun, who played a pivotal role in the U.S. space program, were brought to America despite their dark pasts. The ethical implications of employing former Nazis raise profound questions about the lengths to which the government would go in the name of national security. Operation Paperclip stands as a chilling testament to the moral compromises made by those in power. 10. The Church of the Subgenius. Founded in the 1950s, the Church of the Subgenius is a parody religion that satirizes religion, conspiracy theories, and consumer culture. Members follow the teachings of J.R. Bob Dobbs, a figure who represents the absurdity of modern life. The church promotes the idea of achieving slack, a state of relaxation and freedom from societal pressures. Their gatherings are filled with bizarre rituals, including performances and humorous sermons that blend surrealism and social commentary. 9. The Process Church of the Final Judgment. Emerging in the 1960s, the Process Church began as a religious movement but quickly adopted a cult-like following. They believed in a dualistic God who represented both good and evil. Their rituals included a mix of Christianity and occult practices, and they often preached about the end of the world. Members were encouraged to embrace their darker impulses, leading to their controversial reputation. Despite their strange beliefs, the Process Church has been influential in various countercultural movements. 8. The Family International. Originally known as the Children of God, the Family International gained notoriety in the 1970s for its unconventional practices, including flirty fishing, where female members would engage in sexual relationships with men to spread the faith. The cult's teachings emphasized free love and communal living, leading to a lifestyle that many found shocking. Despite their controversial practices, the group still exists today, having rebranded and distanced itself from its more scandalous aspects. 7. The Church of the Last Testament. Founded by Vissarion, a former traffic cop in Siberia, the Church of the Last Testament claims that Vissarion is the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. His followers live in a remote area of Siberia, adhering to strict rules about diet, lifestyle, and community living. They believe that Vissarion will lead them to salvation and prepare them for the apocalypse. The cult's emphasis on eco-friendly living and communal harmony has drawn attention, though many view their beliefs as eccentric. 6. The Eerie Society. Developed in the 1950s by George King, the Eerie Society combines Eastern spirituality with UFO beliefs. Members believe that extraterrestrial beings are here to assist humanity in spiritual development and prevent global disasters. They engage in rituals that involve prayer and meditation, often directed toward these cosmic entities. The cult promotes the idea that advanced aliens are watching over Earth and that followers must prepare for their eventual arrival. 5. The Raylene Movement. Founded by Claude Vorilhon, Rael, in the 1970s, the Raylene movement teaches that life on Earth was created by extraterrestrial beings called the Elohim. Followers believe that Rael is the last prophet and that they must spread the message of peace and love. The cult is known for its controversial stance on cloning and sexual liberation, often hosting events to promote their beliefs. Their emphasis on scientific exploration and extraterrestrial life has garnered a mix of fascination and skepticism. 4. The Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate was founded in the 1970s by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, who believed that they were the two witnesses mentioned in the Book of Revelation. The cult gained notoriety in 1997 when 39 members committed mass suicide, believing they were ascending to a spaceship that would take them to a higher level of existence. Their beliefs included the idea that Earth was about to be recycled and that their souls would be transported to a new realm. The shocking end of this cult remains one of the most bizarre events in the annals of cult history. 3. The Order of the Solar Temple. Founded in the 1980s by Joseph D. Mambro and Luke Jurett, the Order of the Solar Temple combined elements of Freemasonry, New Age beliefs, and apocalyptic Christianity. Members believed that they were destined to ascend to a higher plane of existence and prepared for this by participating in elaborate rituals. The cult became infamous in the 1990s when a series of mass suicides occurred in Switzerland and Canada, leaving many shocked by the lengths to which the members went in their quest for enlightenment. 2. The Children of God. Despite its earlier mention as the Family International, the Children of God deserves special recognition for its extreme beliefs and practices. Founded in the late 1960s, the cult attracted attention for its sexual practices and communal living arrangements. The group promoted a belief in free love and often engaged in sexual activities as a form of worship. Over time, the cult faced numerous allegations of abuse, leading to its eventual decline in notoriety, but its bizarre practices continue to draw curiosity. 1. The Disciples of the New Dawn. The Disciples of the New Dawn is a lesser-known cult that emerged in the early 2000s. Led by a self-proclaimed prophet named Mother Light, the cult believes that the world is entering a new era of enlightenment. Members practice unusual rituals involving light and sound, believing these elements can elevate their spiritual consciousness. The cult has gained attention for its eccentric beliefs, including the idea that they must prepare for a cosmic event that will change humanity forever. Their secretive nature and unusual practices have left many intrigued and puzzled by their beliefs. 10. The Chijon Family, South Korea, 2009. In 2009, the Chijon family made headlines in South Korea when it was revealed that they had resorted to cannibalism after the death of their patriarch. Following his passing, the family members, struggling with financial difficulties, cooked and consumed parts of his body. This shocking act was discovered after police were called to their home for a separate issue. The family claimed they did it to honor their deceased father. The case shocked the nation, raising questions about desperation and morality, and highlighting the extreme lengths some individuals may go to in dire situations. 9. The Story of Gilberto Valle, USA, 2012. Gilberto Valle, a former New York City police officer, was arrested in 2012 for allegedly conspiring to kidnap and eat women. Valle, dubbed the "cannibal cop" by the media, had engaged in disturbing online chats where he discussed his fantasies about abduction and cannibalism with friends. Although he was acquitted of conspiracy charges, the details of his plans and the chilling nature of his conversations left a lasting impression on the public. The case raised complex questions about fantasy versus intent, ultimately highlighting the potential for violence that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary individuals. 8. The Case of Armin May-Wes, Germany, 2001. Armin May-Wes, infamously known as the "Cannibal of Rodenburg," gained notoriety for killing and consuming a voluntary victim he met online. In 2001, May-Wes connected with Bernd Jürgen Brandes via a cannibalism forum. The two men agreed to meet at Musa's home, where they engaged in a consensual act of cannibalism that was filmed. May-Wes amputated Brandes's penis and cooked it, but when Brandes did not die as planned, May-Wes killed him and consumed parts of his body. The case raised profound ethical questions surrounding consent, as Brandes had willingly participated. May-Wes was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life in prison, and his case remains one of the most shocking examples of modern cannibalism. 7. The Legend of the Wendigo. While not a specific case, the Wendigo is a figure in Algonquian folklore representing a malevolent spirit associated with cannibalism. According to legend, the Wendigo possesses individuals, driving them to commit acts of cannibalism, especially during times of famine. Historical accounts have emerged of individuals claiming to have been possessed by the Wendigo, leading to horrific acts of cannibalism. One notable case in the 1870s involved a man named Swift Runner, who was believed to have succumbed to the Wendigo spirit after his family faced starvation. He killed and consumed his wife and children, claiming he was possessed. The legend serves as a chilling reminder of the psychological effects of extreme circumstances. 6. The Disappearance of the Missing 411. The Missing 411 phenomenon refers to a series of mysterious disappearances in national parks, where individuals vanish without a trace. While many of these cases remain unexplained, some disturbing theories suggest that certain individuals may have met a gruesome fate at the hands of cannibals or other predators. For example, in 1950, a boy named Dennis Martin disappeared while hiking with his family in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Despite extensive searches, no trace of him was ever found. The thought of being consumed by another human being adds a layer of horror to these unsettling disappearances, leaving families and investigators grappling with unanswered questions. 5. The Cannibalistic Cult of the Rainbow Family. In the 1970s, the Rainbow Family, a loosely organized group of counterculture individuals, gained notoriety for their extreme beliefs and communal lifestyle. Allegations emerged that some members engaged in cannibalism as part of their rituals and beliefs about spiritual enlightenment. While the claims were never fully substantiated, the idea of a commune participating in such horrific acts created a chilling narrative. The Rainbow family's gatherings often attracted attention from law enforcement, and the rumors surrounding their practices added to the mystique and horror associated with their gatherings. 4. The Vampire of Sacramento, Richard Chase. Richard Chase, known as the Vampire of Sacramento, was a serial killer who committed a series of gruesome murders in the late 1970s. Chase believed that he needed to drink blood to survive and often targeted women, breaking into their homes and killing them in horrific ways. He would disembowel his victims and consume their organs, drinking their blood and even storing it in jars for later use. His horrific acts of cannibalism and vampirism terrorized the community and earned him a place in true crime history as one of the most disturbing figures. Chase was arrested in 1978, found guilty of multiple murders, and sentenced to death. 3. The Case of Alexander Pierce, Australia, 1822. In 1822, Alexander Pierce escaped from a Tasmanian penal colony along with several other inmates. After becoming lost in the wilderness, the group faced starvation. Pierce resorted to cannibalism, killing and consuming his fellow escapees to survive. When he was finally captured, Pierce confessed to the horrific acts, claiming he had no choice but to do so. His gruesome tale became infamous in Australian folklore and serves as a chilling reminder of the lengths individuals may go to when faced with desperation and survival. Pierce was tried and executed for his crimes, but his story left a lasting mark on the annals of true crime. 2. The Butcher of Rostov, Andrei Chikatilo. Andrei Chikatilo, known as the Butcher of Rostov, was a Soviet serial killer responsible for the deaths of at least 52 people between 1978 and 1990. Chikatilo was notorious for his brutality, often disemboweling his victims and engaging in acts of cannibalism. He would consume parts of his victims' bodies, driven by a compulsion he could not control. His horrific crimes shocked the world and highlighted the depths of human depravity. Chikatilo was arrested in 1990, tried, and ultimately executed in 1994. His chilling acts of violence and cannibalism make him one of the most notorious figures in true crime history. 1. The Colorado Cannibal, Alfred Packer. Alfred Packer, an American prospector, became known as the Colorado Cannibal after a harrowing tale of survival emerged in 1874. Packer and a group of 5 men set out for a gold prospecting expedition in the Colorado mountains. When they became lost and faced starvation, Packer claimed that he was forced to kill and eat his companions to survive. After being captured, he was tried for murder, and his sensationalized story became a part of American folklore. The case raised questions about morality and survival, and Packer's name remains synonymous with cannibalism in American history. He was eventually convicted of manslaughter and served time, but his story is a haunting reminder of the extreme choices people may make when pushed to their limits. 10. Sex with Roadkill, Brian James Hathaway. Brian James Hathaway, an 18-year-old from Wisconsin, had a disturbing encounter with a dead deer he found on the side of the road. Unable to resist the urge, he dragged the deer into the bushes and engaged in sexual acts with its corpse. Hathaway was later convicted of gratification with an animal and sentenced to psychiatric treatment. This wasn't his first offense, as he had previously shot and killed a horse to engage in similar behavior. 9. With someone's dead grandma, Anthony Marino. Anthony Marino, a laboratory technician in New Jersey, was caught in the act of having sexual relations with the corpse of a 92-year-old woman in the hospital morgue. A security guard discovered him after only 2 weeks on the job. Initially sentenced to 7 years in prison, Marino's sentence was later reduced to time served, sparking outrage over the leniency of his punishment. 8. On a Bed of Corpses, Elisa Massaro. In Joliet, Illinois, 18-year-old Elisa Massaro, along with her boyfriend Joshua Minor and 2 friends, executed a gruesome plan. After luring 2 men to a house under false pretenses, they were strangled and hog-tied. Massaro and Minor then engaged in sexual acts on top of the corpses. This chilling case shocked the community and raised questions about the motivations behind such horrific fantasies. 7. Jerry Brutto's, 1939–2006, The Lust Killer. Known as the Lust Killer, Jerry Brutto's was a serial killer arrested in 1969. He was notorious for his shoe fetish and engaged in necrophilia with some of his victims. Brutto's was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, and his case highlights the dark intersection of sexual obsession and murder. 6. André Rigo, 1955–2022. André Rigo, a Slovak serial killer, murdered 8 women and 1 child between 1990 and 1992. He is known for engaging in sexual acts with the corpses of most of his victims. Rigo's heinous crimes shocked the nation and emphasized the brutality of his actions. 5. Doug Clark, 1948–2023. Doug Clark was an American serial killer who performed sexual acts on the corpses of his victims after murdering them. His case highlighted the depravity of individuals who seek to exert power over their victims even in death, leaving a legacy of horror that continues to resonate. 4. Serhiy Tkach, 1952–2018. Ukrainian mass murderer Serhiy Tkach was convicted of suffocating 37 girls, ages 8 to 18. After killing his victims, he engaged in sexual acts with their deceased bodies. Tkach's case is one of the most disturbing, revealing a predatory nature that preyed upon the most vulnerable. 3. Alexander Lobanov, 1979–2002. Alexander Lobanov, a Russian serial killer, raped and murdered young women in Perm from 1999 to 2001. After killing his 4th victim, he engaged in sexual acts with her corpse. Lobanov's brutal crimes, including mutilation and dismemberment, made him one of the most notorious killers of his time. 2. Ibrahim and Enrique de Oliveira. Brothers Ibrahim and Enrique de Oliveira were responsible for a series of murders in Brazil during a crime spree in 1995. They murdered at least 6 people and engaged in sexual acts with their female victims' corpses. Their heinous actions highlighted the chilling bond between the two and their shared depravity. 1. Reginald Oates, born in 1968. Reginald Oates was an American spree killer who committed horrific acts against young boys in a Baltimore park. After murdering a 10-year-old boy, he violated the corpse, decapitated it, and mutilated the body. The next day, he repeated these actions with 2 brothers and another child. Oates's crimes are among the most gruesome in history, cementing his status as one of the most notorious figures in necrophilia. 10. The abduction of the Liaos. In 1994, a family of 4 from Virginia was taken hostage by a group of armed men in their home. The assailants, desperate for money, forced the family into their car and drove them across state lines. Remarkably, after days of terror, the family managed to escape when the kidnappers stopped for food. This case, while terrifying, faded from public memory, overshadowed by more sensational crimes. 9. The Eikenberry hostage crisis. In 2002, a quiet upper Midwest town was shaken when a man took 3 teenagers hostage in a bank. What was shocking was not only the fact that he was armed but that he had also taken his own children to the bank and placed them at imminent risk. After a tense standoff lasting several hours, the hostages were released unharmed, but the psychological scars ran deep. The case received little national attention despite the harrowing details. 8. The mysterious Lichtenfeld cases. In 1981, 2 siblings were abducted while traveling in Europe. Their captors, a shadowy network of thieves, kept them in dingy hideouts across multiple countries. Weeks later, the police finally located them, but the kids had been so traumatized that they could not recount their experiences. The story barely made the headlines before quickly fading from view, a stark reminder of how easily children can fall victim to unseen threats. 7. The kidnapping in Catura. In 2015, a social worker in Paraguay was taken hostage while trying to protect street kids in a gang-ridden area. The gangs, furious at her interference, held her for a week, using her as leverage to settle scores within their ranks. Her eventual release garnered little coverage, leaving many to wonder about the fate of those whom she was trying to defend. 6. The Kashmiri hostage situation. In 1999, a group of tourists in Jammu and Kashmir found themselves kidnapped by militants during a trekking expedition. The situation escalated as international governments attempted to negotiate their release, influenced by geopolitical tensions in the region. Miraculously, they were released, but the tale remains buried beneath layers of complex political narratives that overshadow the personal tragedies involved. 5. The abduction of Neera's children. India's renowned social activist Neera was kidnapped in 2010 while advocating for women's rights in a rural area. Her captors took her children as leverage, demanding the cessation of her campaign against systemic abuses. Though she was released after weeks of negotiations, her children bore the brunt of the psychological fallout, forever marked by their ordeal. The story received scant media coverage and quickly slipped into obscurity. 4. The House of Horrors. In 2013, a suburban family took in a troubled teen, hoping to give him a second chance. Instead, he turned on them, holding them hostage for 5 long days. This case was an eerie reflection of the hunger for connection gone awry, but ultimately, the tragedy was seldom reported outside small local circles, leaving many unaware of the dangers hidden in the guise of goodwill. 3. The vanished flight attendant. In 1979, a flight attendant on a commercial airline was abducted during a layover in a foreign country. Her captors were never caught, and despite extensive investigations, her case remains unsolved. Chilling details of her possible fate continue to circulate, yet the case has faded from public consciousness, a haunting ghost that lingers in the annals of aviation history. 2. The siege at the Sewol. In 2014, the Sewol ferry disaster in South Korea left many young students trapped and terrified, with their captors being the elements of nature itself. As the ship capsized, many felt like hostages in a disaster they could not escape. With a rescue effort that failed miserably, the aftermath was a torrent of blame and controversy, leaving one of the most significant modern tragedies largely discussed only in fleeting moments. 1. The hidden shadow of the Spanish hostage crisis. Between 2000 and 2005, a series of kidnappings took place in the Basque Country, where separatist group ETA targeted individuals perceived as oppressors. While many know about the headlines, the lesser-known stories of those taken captive, often citizens with no political ties, remain disturbing. The victims were held for long periods, subjected to harsh conditions, and released only when their families could pay hefty ransoms. The human element of these individual stories has largely vanished from collective memory, marking them as deep shadows in the pages of history. 2. Roy Hallams. American contractor Roy Hallams was kidnapped in Iraq in 2004. Held captive for 311 days, Hallams was subjected to physical and psychological torture, including being bound and blindfolded. His appeals for help featured in distressing videos that drew attention worldwide. When Hallams was finally rescued in 2005, he expressed profound gratitude to the forces involved, a testament to the harrowing experience and the enduring hope of survival amidst despair. 1. Father Lawrence Martinjenko. Father Lawrence Martinjenko, kidnapped in Beirut in 1985, was held for 564 days. His captivity was one of extreme isolation, limited basic necessities, and brutal restrictions. However, despite his dire circumstances, Jenko found solace in his faith, reflecting on themes of forgiveness in his writings after his release. His endurance and resilience serve not only as a harrowing testament to the capacity for human strength in dire straits but also as a reminder of the transformative power of compassion, even amidst cruelty. 10. George Joseph Smith. Born in London in 1872, George Joseph Smith was a master manipulator and bigamist who married 7 women between 1908 and 1914. His charm and deceit led him to drown his first wife, Bessie Williams, in their bathtub on July 13, 1912, claiming it was an accident. He swiftly collected her life insurance payout, disappearing like a phantom. Smith's second wife, Alice, met a similar fate 5 months later. This time, he managed to convince everyone that her death was also accidental. However, his third wife, Margaret Lloyd, became his downfall. After her mysterious death on December 18, 1914, her former landlord, suspicious of the pattern, contacted the police. This led to Smith's arrest and subsequent conviction for 3 counts of murder in 1975. Dubbed the Bluebeard of the Bath, he was executed by hanging on August 13, 1915, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and betrayal. 9. Henri Désir Landru. Henri Désir Landru, born in Paris in 1869, capitalized on the aftermath of World War I by placing personal ads in newspapers, presenting himself as a wealthy widower looking for companionship. Between January 1915 and January 1919, he lured at least 11 women to his home, where he brutally murdered them. Landru dismembered his victims and incinerated their remains in his oven, leaving no trace behind. His reign of terror ended when the sister of one of his victims, Célestine Buisson, sought justice and convinced the police to investigate. Although the bodies were never found, Landru's meticulous record-keeping tied him to numerous missing women. He was convicted in November 1921 and executed by guillotine on February 25, 1922. His chilling moniker, the Bluebeard of Gambais, reflected the horror he inflicted upon unsuspecting victims. 8. Lyda Southard. Hailing from Missouri, Lyda Southard, born in 1892, is remembered as one of America's first known female serial killers. She began her murderous spree in 1915, with the suspicious deaths of her young daughter, husband, and brother-in-law, all of whom conveniently passed away shortly after she collected substantial life insurance policies. After marrying 4 more times, 3 of her husbands and another child also met untimely deaths. A chemist, suspecting foul play surrounding the death of her first husband, Robert Dooley, led authorities to exhume the remains of her other victims. Tests revealed arsenic poisoning, confirming her guilt. Dubbed Mrs. Bluebeard, Southard was convicted in 1921 and sentenced to 10 years to life in prison. After escaping in 1931, she was imprisoned again and died of a heart attack in 1958. Her life was a grim testament to greed and deception. 7. Tilly Klimek. Tilly Klimek, born in Poland in 1876, emigrated to the United States and soon became embroiled in a series of suspicious deaths. After marrying 4 times, her second and third husbands died under mysterious circumstances. In 1921, her 4th husband fell ill and sought medical help, only to discover he had been poisoned with arsenic. This revelation led authorities to exhume the bodies of Klimek's former spouses and relatives, ultimately linking her to the deaths of 12 people, including her cousin's children. The press labeled her the High Priestess of the Bluebeard clique. In 1923, Klimek was convicted for the murder of her 3rd husband, Frank Kupczyk, and sentenced to life in prison. She died behind bars in 1936, her legacy marked by tragedy and betrayal. 6. Johann Otto Haack. Johann Otto Haack, born in Germany in 1855, was a notorious bigamist who married over 50 women in the United States using numerous aliases. He specifically targeted wealthy widows, charming them into marriage before poisoning them with arsenic. His victims would often be from affluent backgrounds, making their disappearances all the more suspicious. Hawk was arrested in 1905 after authorities connected him to multiple mysterious deaths. Despite confessing to several murders, he was only convicted for one, the death of his final wife, Marie Walker. His chilling statement, "Marriage was purely a business proposition to me," encapsulated his cold, calculated approach to killing. Hawk was executed in 1906, leaving a dark legacy of greed and deceit. 5. Alfred Leonard Klein. Known as the Buttermilk Bluebeard, Alfred Leonard Klein was accused of murdering at least 8 women and 1 man between 1930 and 1945. Klein's modus operandi involved serving his victims buttermilk laced with sedatives, allowing him to inherit their estates. Despite numerous suspicions surrounding his wives' deaths, Klein evaded murder charges due to a lack of concrete evidence, as he cremated his victims shortly after their deaths. Ultimately, he was convicted of 9 counts of forgery related to the killings and sentenced to 126 years in prison. He died of a heart attack in Folsom Prison in 1948, leaving behind a cloud of suspicion and fear. 4. Belle Gunness. Belle Gunness, the Lady Bluebeard, was a formidable figure in the early 20th century. Born in Norway in 1859, she emigrated to the United States in 1881 and quickly began exploiting her marriages for financial gain. After her first husband died under suspicious circumstances, she collected a life insurance payout and used the money to buy a farm in LaPorte, Indiana. Gunness' second husband and her children also met untimely deaths, raising eyebrows as she placed ads seeking wealthy suitors. Many of these men vanished after visiting her farm, leading to suspicions of foul play. On April 28, 1908, her farmhouse burned down, revealing the remains of several men buried on her property. While authorities never conclusively identified the headless body found in the fire as Gunness, many believed she had faked her death to escape justice. Her legacy remains shrouded in mystery and horror. 3. Herman Drenth. Herman Drenth, known as the Bluebeard of Clarksburg, was a calculating killer who preyed on women he met through personal ads. After marrying his first wife, Luella, he began placing ads claiming to be a wealthy widower seeking companionship. Drenth's murderous spree began in 1931 when he killed Asta Eicher and her 3 children after stealing their money. His crimes escalated as he traveled to Northborough, Massachusetts, where he murdered Dorothy Pressler Lemke, whom he intended to marry. Investigators uncovered the remains of 5 victims in his garage, leading to his arrest. Drenth was convicted and executed by hanging on March 18, 1932, leaving a legacy of horror and betrayal in his wake. 2. James Watson. James Watson, simply known as Bluebeard, was a notorious bigamist who married 22 women across various states. His penchant for personal ads led him to unsuspecting victims, and he claimed to have killed 7 of his brides. His downfall came when Catherine Wambacher, suspicious of his intentions, hired a private detective. The investigation revealed multiple marriage licenses and financial documents in Watson's possession, leading to his arrest. He admitted to the murders, stating, "Something just told me to go and marry them, and yet something told me not to." Watson was sentenced to life in prison, where he died of pneumonia in 1939, his legacy marked by deceit and betrayal. 1. Lowell Edwin Amos. At the top of this horrific list is Lowell Edwin Amos, a former General Motors executive who committed murder in a shocking display of greed. On December 10, 1994, Amos killed his 3rd wife, Roberta, in a Detroit hotel room. After lacing her drink with sedatives, he smothered her to death and staged the scene to make it appear like an overdose. Investigators soon discovered that Amos's previous wives had also died under suspicious circumstances, leading to revelations that he had collected over $1 million in life insurance payouts. Charged only with Roberta's murder, he was convicted in 1996 and sentenced to life in prison. The judge labeled him a modern-day Bluebeard, encapsulating the horror and betrayal he embodied, a chilling reminder of the darkest aspects of human nature. 10. Six Flags New Orleans, USA. Once a lively amusement park, Six Flags New Orleans met its tragic fate following Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The park, which had been a staple of family fun, was left to decay, becoming a ghostly reminder of its former self. The vibrant colors of the rides have faded, overtaken by rust and nature's relentless grip. Visitors to the park report eerie encounters, with many claiming to hear ghostly laughter echoing through the empty paths. Shadows flit between the rusting attractions, and some have even claimed to see the spirits of park employees, forever bound to the place they once loved. The most chilling tale involves a family who ventured into the park only to report seeing a spectral carousel spinning without a soul in sight, its haunting melodies drifting through the air like a whisper from the past. 9. Spree Park, Berlin, Germany. Spree Park, once a bustling amusement park in East Berlin, fell into disrepair after financial troubles and mismanagement led to its closure in 2001. The park's attractions, including a now overgrown Ferris wheel, stand as eerie monuments to a bygone era. Local legends tell of strange occurrences in the park, with urban explorers often reporting feelings of unease and the sensation of being watched. Some have encountered apparitions that seem to relive the joy of the park's heyday, only to vanish as quickly as they appeared. The most disturbing tales revolve around the park's former owner, who allegedly conducted dark rituals in the woods surrounding the park, leaving behind a legacy of unrest that still lingers in the air. 8. Wonderland, Beijing, China. Wonderland, an ambitious theme park in Beijing, was meant to be a magical retreat but was abandoned before its completion. The park's fairy tale facades now crumble under the weight of neglect, and its story is intertwined with corruption and mismanagement. As the sun sets, shadows dance among the empty attractions, and witnesses claim to hear a strange humming sound emanating from the park's unfinished structures. Some believe the spirits of workers who died during construction still roam the grounds, searching for closure. Visitors report seeing ghostly figures near the castle, dressed in the clothing of the park's intended characters, forever trapped in a dream that never came to fruition. 7. Gorky Park, Moscow, Russia. Gorky Park has long been a symbol of Soviet leisure, but today, it stands as a haunting relic of the past. While it still serves as a public park, the remnants of its amusement area are left to decay. The once vibrant attractions are now rusting and abandoned, shrouded in stories of tragedies that occurred during its operational years. Locals recount chilling encounters with apparitions, particularly near the old roller coaster, where a tragic accident claimed lives. Witnesses describe seeing a figure dressed in vintage clothing, silently watching from the shadows as if mourning the lost joy of the park. The air is thick with stories of sorrow, and those brave enough to visit at night often leave with an unsettling feeling of being followed. 6. River Country, Florida, USA. River Country was Disney's first water park, which opened in 1976 but closed in 2001 due to various safety and health concerns. The park has become a ghostly reminder of the past, with its attractions left to decay and nature reclaiming the space. Rumors of hauntings surround the park, particularly regarding the waters that once welcomed families to splash and play. There are chilling tales of drownings and injuries that were never reported, leading many to believe that the spirits of those who met tragic ends still linger in the park. Urban explorers have reported hearing splashes and laughter in the distance, only to find the area empty, with the water eerily still. The legend of a vengeful spirit haunting the waters adds to the park's grim reputation, making it a site of both curiosity and fear. 5. Epcot's Horizons, Florida, USA. Horizons was a beloved attraction at Epcot, celebrating the future and the possibilities of tomorrow. However, after its closure in 1999, the ride was left to decay, becoming a shadow of its former self. Despite its partial abandonment, the remnants of Horizons still evoke a sense of nostalgia, but they are also shrouded in darker tales. Former cast members report feeling an unsettling presence within the ride, as if the spirits of those who once operated it are trapped in a nostalgia loop. Some visitors claim to hear echoes of laughter and snippets of conversation from a time when the ride was alive with joy. The lingering sadness of lost dreams and corporate greed haunts the atmosphere, creating a chilling backdrop for those who dare to explore its remnants. 4. The Land of Oz, North Carolina, USA. Once a whimsical tribute to The Wizard of Oz, the Land of Oz was a delightful theme park that operated from 1970 until the 1980s. However, after its closure, the park fell into disrepair, leaving behind a haunting landscape of faded dreams and crumbling attractions. Legends of ghostly encounters abound, with visitors claiming to hear disembodied voices calling out from the yellow brick road, inviting them to join in a magical adventure. Some even report seeing the ghost of Dorothy herself, wandering through the overgrown gardens in search of her lost friends. The park's eerie silence is occasionally broken by whispers of joy, a reminder of the happiness that once filled the air. The combination of nostalgia and the supernatural creates an unsettling yet fascinating atmosphere, drawing curious souls to its forsaken paths. 3. Nara Dreamland, Japan. Nara Dreamland, inspired by Disneyland, opened its gates in 1961 but closed in 2006 due to declining attendance and financial struggles. The park is now an overgrown wasteland filled with dilapidated attractions, a haunting reminder of dreams unfulfilled. Urban explorers brave enough to venture into Nara Dreamland often report feelings of unease and the sensation of being watched. Strange noises echo through the empty pathways, and many have encountered apparitions that seem to relive moments from the park's heyday. One particularly chilling tale involves a group of friends who claim to see a ghostly figure in a vintage costume beckoning them to follow, only for the figure to vanish into thin air. The park's dark history, combined with its eerie atmosphere, makes it a site of intrigue and dread. 2. Pripyat Amusement Park, Ukraine. Situated near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, the Pripyat Amusement Park was meant to be a source of joy for the town's children. However, it never opened to the public due to the catastrophic nuclear disaster in 1986. Today, the park stands as a haunting reminder of innocence lost. The Ferris wheel, once poised to offer breathtaking views, now serves as a chilling symbol of a future interrupted. Ghostly whispers fill the air, and the echoes of laughter from children can still be faintly heard. Urban explorers report seeing shadowy figures near the park's attractions, as if the spirits of those who dreamed of joy are forever trapped in the ruins. The memories of the town's residents linger in the atmosphere, creating a poignant and eerie experience for those who dare to enter. 1. Action Park, New Jersey, USA. Dubbed Accident Park by locals, Action Park was notorious for its dangerous attractions and the numerous injuries that occurred during its operational years. Opened in 1978, it quickly became infamous for its reckless approach to safety, leading to multiple lawsuits and fatalities before its closure in 1996. The park's dark legacy is compounded by stories of thrill-seekers who suffered tragic accidents, with some claiming that their spirits haunt the site. The remnants of the park are now overgrown, but the chilling tales persist. Visitors have reported encountering ghostly figures near the water slides and hearing the sounds of laughter followed by screams in the dead of night. The chilling atmosphere, combined with the park's history of negligence, creates a haunting reminder of the cost of unrestrained amusement. 10. Brighton Trunk Murders, 1934. In the 1930s, the Brighton Trunk murders shocked the UK when the dismembered body parts of a woman were discovered stuffed inside several trunks. The victim was identified as Mary Martha Crutchley, who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The investigation led to George W. Smith, a traveling salesman who was ultimately convicted of her murder. The gruesome nature of the crime captured public attention and became a defining moment in criminal history. 9. Murder of Jeffrey Howe, 2001. The murder of Jeffrey Howe, a homeless man in New York City, is a chilling example of violence among the vulnerable. After being lured into an apartment, Howe was brutally killed and dismembered by William "Billy" Ray Smith. The parts of his body were found scattered throughout the area, leading to a swift investigation and eventual conviction of Smith. This case highlighted the dangers faced by those living on the fringes of society. 8. Murder of June Lin, 2012. The murder of June Lin, a Chinese international student in Montreal, became infamous due to the shocking nature of the crime. Luca Magnotta, a self-proclaimed actor, murdered Lin, dismembered his body, and filmed the act, posting it online. Magnotta's eventual arrest and trial drew international attention, making this case one of the most notorious instances of dismemberment in recent history. 7. Kowlang River Body Parts Murder, 2004. In Singapore, the discovery of dismembered body parts in the Kowlang River in 2004 sent shockwaves through the community. The victim, Huang Na, was a young girl whose body was found in several pieces. The case led to the arrest of her killer, Ko Siong Ron, who was later convicted. The brutality of the crime and the age of the victim made this case particularly harrowing. 6. Murder of Karen Hearn Slover, 1998. The murder of Karen Hearn Slover in the United States was a particularly gruesome case. After a tumultuous relationship, her ex-boyfriend Joshua Ford killed her and dismembered her body, hiding the remains in various locations. The brutal nature of the crime and the motive behind it shocked the community, leading to Ford's conviction and a life sentence. 5. Murder of Marta del Castillo, 2009. The case of Marta del Castillo, a Spanish teenager, marked a tragic turn in the fight for justice. After being killed by her ex-boyfriend, her body was dismembered and discarded by her accomplices. Despite extensive searches, the body was never fully recovered, leading to a public outcry for justice. This case highlighted the issues of gender violence and the failures in the judicial system, making it a haunting tale of loss. 4. Elise Matsunaga, Once Upon a Crime, 2012. In Brazil, the case of Elise Matsunaga, who murdered her husband and dismembered his body, gripped the nation. After a tumultuous marriage, Matsunaga shot her husband and then meticulously cut up his body, hiding the parts in various places. Her trial revealed a complex story of betrayal and revenge, leading to her conviction and a long prison sentence. This case is notorious not just for the crime but for the media frenzy that surrounded it. 3. Orchard Road Body Parts Murder, 2008. The Orchard Road Body Parts Murder in Singapore involved the dismemberment of Yuki Shimizu, a Japanese expatriate. Her partner, Julius Lim, was found guilty of killing her and disposing of her body in a gruesome manner. The crime shocked the nation, leading to a lengthy trial and Lim's conviction. The brutality of the dismemberment and the location of the crime made it particularly infamous. 2. Murder of Katarzyna Zawada, 1998. In Poland, the murder of Katarzyna Zawada became notorious after her dismembered body was discovered in a forest. The crime was committed by Marek G., who had a history of violence against women. The brutal nature of the crime and the lack of remorse shown by G. during the trial horrified the public, making this case one of the most infamous in Polish criminal history. 1. Mapirapan Massacre, 1997. At the top of our list is the Mapirapan Massacre, a harrowing event in Colombia where paramilitary groups dismembered the bodies of their victims. Over 30 people were killed, and many were subjected to gruesome acts of violence, including dismemberment. The case highlighted the atrocities committed during the Colombian armed conflict and the ongoing struggle for justice. With its sheer brutality and the number of victims, the Mapirapan Massacre stands as a chilling reminder of the depths of human violence. 10. The Smiley Face Killer. This unidentified serial killer is believed to be responsible for the deaths of young men across several U.S. states since the late 1990s. The victims often disappeared after nights out and were later found in bodies of water. The killer is thought to blend into social situations, allowing him to gain the trust of his victims before ultimately leading them to their tragic fate. 9. The East Area Rapist / Original Night Stalker. Active in California during the late 1970s and early 1980s, this killer raped dozens of women before ultimately committing several murders. He was known to stalk neighborhoods, living a seemingly normal life while terrorizing the community. His ability to blend into the background made him one of the most elusive serial killers until his identity was finally revealed in 2018. 8. The Black Widow of La Piedad. This unidentified woman is believed to have poisoned multiple husbands and other family members in La Piedad, Mexico, over several decades. She led a double life as a caring spouse while committing her heinous acts to gain inheritance money. Her ability to charm and manipulate those around her allowed her to escape suspicion for years. 7. The Phantom Killer. The Phantom Killer, or the Texarkana Moonlight Murders suspect, is linked to a series of murders in the Texarkana area during 1946. Despite being a well-known figure in the community, the killer managed to evade capture while attacking couples. The killer's ability to blend into the community while instilling fear in the hearts of residents remains a haunting mystery. 6. The Cincinnati Strangler. The Cincinnati Strangler is an unidentified serial killer who operated in Ohio during the late 1960s. This killer targeted women, often luring them under the guise of friendship or assistance. Many in the community were unaware of the violence lurking beneath the surface, highlighting the chilling ability of this killer to maintain a double life. 5. The I-5 Killer. This unidentified killer is believed to have murdered several women along the I-5 corridor in the 1970s and 1980s. He was known to target hitchhikers, blending in with the transient lifestyle of the area. The killer's ability to move between states and maintain a facade of normalcy allowed him to continue his reign of terror for years. 4. The Boy in the Box Killer. The identity of the killer of The Boy in the Box, a child found murdered in Philadelphia in 1957, remains unknown. The killer was able to hide behind a mask of normalcy while committing such a horrific crime, possibly blending into the community as a family man or neighbor. The mystery surrounding this case continues to haunt investigators and the public alike. 3. The Highway of Tears Killer. This unidentified killer is linked to the disappearances and murders of numerous women along a stretch of highway in British Columbia, Canada. The killer led a dual life, possibly appearing as a helpful figure to those in need, while simultaneously preying on vulnerable individuals. The ongoing mystery surrounding the identity of this killer has left many families in anguish. 2. The Lady Killer. This unidentified female serial killer is believed to have murdered several men across various states. She often used her charm and attractiveness to lure her victims, presenting herself as someone seeking companionship. Her ability to live a double life while committing such heinous acts serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can hide behind a friendly smile. 1. The Doodler. Active in San Francisco during the 1970s, the Doodler is linked to the murders of at least 5 men, primarily targeting members of the LGBTQ+ community. He was known for sketching his victims before killing them, showcasing a disturbing blend of artistry and violence. Despite being a prime suspect, his identity remains unknown, allowing him to slip through the cracks of justice.